Hi, good evening, and welcome to the Wednesday evening reflection. Bishop Ariel Santos here. We hope to be able to impart to you some insight into principles of the kingdom of God. We look back to last Sunday's gospel. Last Sunday was the seventh and the last Sunday of Easter, but 3 days before that, was the Feast of the Ascension. So this coming Sunday is already Pentecost, right? 50 days from resurrection. But 40 days from Jesus' resurrection was his ascension, and we celebrated that feast. And we would like to share what the ascension actually really means. See, the Easter resurrection is really not the high point of the story of Jesus and his victory. Of course, it was a victory over death, but that is not the conclusion. The conclusion is the ascension, which is the exaltation of Jesus to God's right hand. The ascension, we would like to clarify this. The ascension is not Jesus leaving his disciples, because that would be contrary to his promise just before he ascended, when he told his disciples, "Lo, I'm with you always." Right? He said that. So he is still with us. He's with us, but he was nonetheless, he was exalted. He ascended on high to be seated at the right hand of God, the right hand of power, because to be given all authority in heaven and on earth. That's what he also said. All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth, so that he can rule and reign, so that he could be far above all power and ruler and principality and power, and principalities and authorities. So there is a reason for that. But first, where is the right hand of God? The right hand of God is not a physical location. It is a higher realm. It is a place of authority and a place of righteousness, a place that just is representative of God's kingdom and God's nature. So Jesus did not go to some place in some galaxy in outer space. No, he was exalted in the heavenly realm, so that he's seated at the higher realm right now, far above all these principalities and powers, which subject people, God's children, under them. Talking about sin and the forces of darkness. They enslave and put people in bondage to them. Jesus has passed through the heavens and above all of these things for a reason. I really like this song that we sing, "Christ is the head of the church, the first to rise from the dead, that he might be ruler, supreme over all, and reconcile us unto God." And then it goes on and says, "All hail to the head of the church, by him we have risen from the dead, that we might be rulers, to reign over all, bearing witness to the power of God." St. Paul says in his letter to the Ephesians, God has seated us with Christ in the heavenly places. See, when Christ rose from the dead, he rose as a human being and God, But when he ascended on high, he took humanity with him, because he's divine and human. He took humanity with him and elevated humanity also, and seated us with him at the right hand of God for a reason. so that we too would be far above all of these powers and principalities, so that we would not be under. So we would not be under their power and their authority. That's why Jesus prayed in the gospel last Sunday, in his high priestly prayer in John chapter 17. He prayed that God, his Father, would not take us out of the world where these principalities and powers operate, not take us out of the world, but to protect us from the evil one, from the leader of these principalities and powers, so that we would not be subject to their power, but we would be, like Jesus, far above all rule and authority and dominion. I'm reminded of the story of Jesus walking on the water. You all know the story, right? Evening, fourth watch of the night, very dark. Disciples were struggling in the boat to get to the other side, and there was a storm. And you know, in the Bible, water is positively, representative of life, right? Water of life. But especially in the Old Testament and also in the New, large bodies of water, seas, oceans, had a negative connotation. It was representative of hostile powers, principalities and powers against God. And they instilled fear. In fact, the Israelites were fearful of bodies of water, but that's what they symbolize. And in the Old Testament, God telling the waters of the sea, only so far can you go, means that God is far above all those rulers and authorities and powers. And Jesus walking on water is also a picture of that, which is why he told Peter, again, Peter, a human being, told Peter to come and to him and also walk on water, which Peter did for a while when he was looking at Jesus, when he was focusing on Jesus. But then when he removed his focus from Jesus and looked at the waters, he walked by sight, not by faith. Then he started drowning, started becoming under these principalities and powers, right? So understand that. That's the lesson of the story. God's will is for us to walk on water, to be seated at the right hand of God with Christ, ruling and reigning with him. That's the point, which is why Jesus continues in his high priestly prayer in the gospel last Sunday. And he says, Father, I'm not asking you to take them out of the world, but that you keep them from the evil one. You empower them so that they're above these principalities and powers as well. They overcome them. And on top of that, and already given that, now as you have sent me into the world, so I am sending them into the world, where there is darkness, where there is bondage, so that their light would shine in the darkness, so that their power would be seen to overcome power of sin and darkness and death and sickness and poverty and all of these things afflicting human beings. And they would also share the good news that the rest of the human race can also avail of this power over what puts them in bondage, what afflicts them. That's the good news, that we're all of us are heirs, we're all fellow heirs among each other, fellow heirs of the blessing of God, which is life that would conquer death. which the devil has subjected us to. So that's the whole point. Jesus now is sending us into the world. Not, again, the ascension of Jesus is not about escaping, fleeing, evacuating the world of darkness. Okay? We're not meant to escape it, we're meant to overcome it and hasten the coming of the kingdom of light as opposed to the principalities of darkness. We usher in the coming of the kingdom of righteousness to quash, to overcome the kingdom of unrighteousness. We usher in the coming of the kingdom of love and unity and harmony to replace the kingdom of hate and division and warring and all of these things that are contrary to what God wills for us, actually has willed for us from the beginning. And so that's the whole point, right? We should not have a worldview of, oh, this world is hopeless. It's going, it will proceed from bad to worse. And we should not have this a view of doom and gloom, thinking that the enemy, in fact, his kingdom is what's prospering in this world. No. Jesus established his kingdom 2,000 years ago. He inaugurated it. And like a mustard seed, it continues to sprout and prosper. And nothing can stop it. There is no end to the increase of his kingdom and his peace. It's the devil's kingdom that, his days are numbered. And one day, the kingdoms of this world will become the kingdom of our God. That's our destiny. That's the trajectory we're on. And we are being invited to participate in this work of Jesus, of transfiguring this world, of making all things new in this world, of the restoration of all things. Well, what a privilege, to be part of that. So let's not fear, which is heaven's language, always tells us not to fear. Let us not fear, and let us not have a skewed understanding of things to come. Things to come, we have a bright future. That's why we joyfully wait for the coming of the kingdom of God, the life of the world to come. We long for that, when all things will have been made new, when we are back to Eden, paradise. But I'm thinking not just Eden, not just going back to paradise, but even better, much better. Because that paradise from before, the first one, God spoke it into existence. And he fashioned man out of dust, that formed him to become a flesh, and then breathed his life into the man so that he became a living soul, a human being. That's what God did in order to bring that paradise, that Eden, that creation into existence, which was very good, right? But the restoration of that Eden, of that paradise, what God did in order to restore it, he didn't just speak, he didn't just get dust up from the ground and fashion it. He gave his own life, his very life, in order to restore it. That's why I'm anticipating a much, much greater and more beautiful Eden, paradise, new heaven and new earth that we look forward to. What an exciting thing to be a Christian, to be a follower of Jesus, because only good things come to us. I'm not going to say, I'm not going to promise that we will not face tribulation. In the meantime, we will. But a day will come when all these things will be gone, and progressively be gone. Because God's kingdom will have no end. And you and I are part of that. We are so blessed. And we want to thank you for joining us once again tonight on the Wednesday evening reflection. God bless you. We will see you again next week.